really well.
Having completed all his shopping, James Lewis is travelling to Tring to visit a perfectly preserved Victorian exhibition. The Natural History Museum at Tring has been part of its London namesake since 1937, when it was gifted by the wealthy conservationist Lionel Walter Rothschild, 2nd Baron Rothschild of the famous banking dynasty. James is meeting museums manager Paul Kitching.
Hi.
Hello, James.
Paul.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
How are
to
you?
see you as well. Very well. I have to say, I wasn't expecting to see that.
No, this is quite an unusual collection, isn't it? And there are some crackers like this giant ground sloth.
How many specimens altogether are here?
There are about 4,000 different species of animal on display here in the museum, ranging from dressed fleas to the giant ground sloth that we just looked at.
Following in the footsteps of Darwin, this collection is the lifetime's work of Rothschild, who moved to Tring Park with his family in 1872. At a very young age, Walter, as he was known, announced that he was going to make a museum. By the age of 10, his collection of insects and butterflies in the garden shed was well underway.
He was always fascinated by the plants and animals living around him, given his family's sort of trade connections. I think he found it quite easy to acquire specimens from aunts and uncles. There are certainly letters in the archive from his grandmother saying, "I've sent you a nice green snake for your birthday." And the museum grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
Most people get the key of the door for their 21st birthday. In 1889, Walter got the key of the door and the rest of the building gifted by his father, which was to become the home of his extraordinary collection.
From a marketing point of view, we kind of use images of Rothschild with a zebra-drawn carriage or with his giant tortoises. And it is a spectacular museum collection here. However, behind the scenes, he and his two curators worked 40-odd years, early till late. They published 8,000 papers, described somewhere in the region of 300 new species. So these were guys that were staring down microscopes day in, day out, looking at diversity, studying difference.
So he was a genuine scientist.
It was a real, this was no kind of passing fashion. There was a dedication there. Certainly 120 years ago, a place like this was one of the few places that you could see this breadth of natural richness side by side.
How do they get the animal preserved and looking like that, looking real?
We've got some classic examples. Should we go and have a look at some?
Love to.
Okay.
Brilliant. After you.
Thank you.
Victorian visitors would have been amazed by the strange and exotic animals in Walter's collection. Even though London Zoo had been open since 1847, there were creatures here beyond their wildest imagination.
Goodness, the zebra collection.
Yeah, so you were asking about taxidermy and how these animals are put together. Underneath the skin here, you will have the skull of the animal to give the body its shape. You may have some of the leg bones as well, connected together with a wire frame, and then sort of wrapped around with like long strips of wood, like wood wool. And you can see that on some of these animals, the detailing is so fine. If you look at the kind of the wrinkles around the underside of this zebra, you can see the kind of little blood vessels or those effects within the skin. They're usually the wood wool that's been shaped and packed to give the skin to give the model its appearance.
As well as preserving animals, Walter also kept a large collection of living ones, including cassowary birds and zebra, which enabled him to study their behaviour. His research was beneficial to the survival of many species, including the Rothschild giraffe and the giant tortoise. Walter's zoological collection remains one of the largest of its kind and gives an insight into early natural curiosities.
I have a natural curiosity in my pocket that I actually found in an antique shop the other day.
Oh dear.
And
goodness.
what do you make of that?
I would say I'd like it to be something like a pine cone, but I'm sure it's not. I think it might be a fossilised animal dropping, a coprolite.
I'm very impressed.
I think that's perhaps one that we're not keen to add to the collection this time out.
Thanks very much. I thought it was rather special.
It's very interesting.
Do you know, it's been brilliant. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
And I've learnt a lot. And for me, that is a fantastic authentication.
Excellent. So, James Lewis can now be certain that he's bought a genuine pile of old poop. Back in the Beetle, his competitor has crossed the county border from Hertfordshire to Buckinghamshire for his last shop of the day in Aylesbury. Aylesbury was a major market town in Anglo-Saxon times and is famous as the burial place for St Orsithe, who lost her head in 870. Careless. Let's hope James doesn't lose his at the final shop, Antiques at Wendover, managed by dealer